Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies of a Man once again, and today we are doing another Kaiju number 8 video. Today we are covering chapter 23 after a couple of rough weeks where we didn't really have a proper schedule. It was like we had one chapter and then we had Christmas and then we had I think we didn't have a chapter again for another week because Japan, actually, not us, Japan had a holiday that the manga magazine or Shonen Jump was taking into account, so we didn't actually get another chapter when we were supposed to, and starting now we are going to have the regular schedule once again. Now today we are covering chapter 23, like I said, and as always this is going to be a spoiler filled review, so if you don't want to watch it, please feel free to step away, read the book, read the chapter, and then come back to talk about it if you want to. Now, we are going to have a recap section, and then we're going to go in-depth, spoiler-filled discussion to the chapter, and then at the end we're going to do some theories, because this seems to be the beginning of a new arc, or at least a secondary part to the full arc. I actually Googled it, and apparently we already have arc designations. So the first arc is the first two chapters. The second arc is the entrance exam arc for all the stuff that happened between chapters 3 and 14, I think. And then the third arc is all the stuff that we've seen so far with the humanoid kaiju. And I personally think that last chapter was a transition chapter, and this is also a transition chapter, but it's like the one that starts the new arc. So hopefully we'll see if that's true or not. Now, the recap for the last chapter, chapter 22, which was 2 weeks ago, if I remember correctly, was that it was a transitionary chapter. Reno and Iharu were getting better. 2 weeks later, they had a party, and we got another character introduced, which was, well, he wasn't introduced recently, but it was like the son of the company that makes the weapons, that he was in the same company or defense group as Kafka, Reno, Iharu, Kikoru, all of them. And we got like a nice, cool, like, hey, yeah, we're done with our mission. Good job, everyone. And, kind of doing it over there. So, yeah, it's very interesting. I really enjoyed that chapter just because it was a nice breath of fresh air. And I was ready for new stuff to happen, and we did get some new stuff here, but this new chapter is still mostly transitionary until near the end. So let's just actually jump into the spoiler section now. Please click away if you don't want to see any spoilers. So, like I said, transitionary chapter starts with Kafka and Mina. They're in a very intimate setting by themselves together, and she is awarding him with his new rank because in the last chapter he went up from a cadet to a officer. Officially, he was designated as an officer because if you guys remember all the way back in chapter 10, I think. I'm not exactly sure. If anyone is sure, let me know down in the comments. He was accepted into the Japan Defense Force as a cadet, even though he shouldn't have been, because Hoshina was like, hey, this guy is interesting, something is different about him, I want him on the team. And now he is officially an officer just like everyone else, which is pretty good. It's kind of weird. I don't know how it works, like who's under them. Like Kafka was technically below everyone else's rank, but who is under them now? Because it's kind of weird to have everyone be an officer in a militia or like in a military team. So I'm not really sure. It's a cool thing to think about, but it doesn't really matter in the context of what the story is right now. So yeah, she awards him his new rank in this little intimate setting. They have a bit of a small moment together where they interact and kind of reminisce about that old promise. Mina's like, hey, don't get cocky. Don't start jumping for joy. There's still a long road ahead of you before we can stand together. And Kafka is really happy that she remembers, and he, talks back to her. And then in a little bit of a comedic moment, she's like, hey, you didn't respond to me like you should. Drop down and give me 50 push-ups, which was pretty fun. And then after that, she kind of gets a scare out of him. She's like, Kaiju number 8, pause, and Kaiju number 9, and then she has a talk about how they're really tough opponents, and there was some problems that came up, and that she has to go elsewhere, leave Hoshina in charge, and figure out what's going on. So she tells Kafka, hey, Kafka, you have to go to Hoshina. He's going to tell you, or he's going to give you the rundown of what an officer entails. Go talk to him, make sure to be respectful and stuff. And then she says, it was actually him that pushed for your rank up, your promotion, not me. So he believes in you, which is pretty cool. Kafka ends up being pretty odd and kind of like, oh my God, he believes in me. That kind of reaction, which is pretty cool, understandable. I like it. And yeah, Mina walks off. Kafka walks off as well, I guess. There's a scene shift now, and Kafka is studying, and he's starting to head out to bed. He's like, screw it, I'm too tired, and Hoshina is gonna probably come by and tell me to go to bed already, like he did last time. And then as he's heading out, he sees the training room still has its lights on, so he's confused about that. He goes to check it out, and he finds Hoshina training. He's like slicing and slashing and dicing up everyone around him, or like imaginary, right? Like everyone that is around him in his mind, because he's doing this thing called mental imaging training, which I think is actually a thing that people in real life do. If you guys ever watched the movie Rush, it's about Niki Lauda and that other guy, and they're like racing cars. And Niki Lauda had this thing where he would, or no, not Niki Lauda, the other guy that was played by the actor that plays Thor, was doing this thing where he was sitting in this car without actually doing anything, with his eyes closed, just imagining the track kind of going like that, right? And that would actually help him practice. And it's actually, I think, a technique that they actually tell you that is really good, because it still counts as practice in your brain. This is what I've heard. I don't know if it's actually true. It still counts as practice in your brain, and it actually helps you develop, like, not muscle memory, but like faster activation of your synapses or something. And so it actually helps you do your studying like that, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, he's doing that. He's like slashing and cutting and, swinging a sword at things that are imaginary as he practices. And eventually, he notices Kafka, and they kind of have a bit of a serious conversation. Hoshina gets this really like, what is that, like killing intent thing going on, talking about how Kaiju number 8 is a tough opponent, and that he wants to kill him, and that it's all his fault for messing up and not taking the fight seriously, that his officers could have almost gotten hurt. Well, he doesn't say it like that, but that's kind of what he gets to with what he's saying. And yeah, Kafka kind of gets scared a bit, because he's talking really seriously, and he ends up pointing his katana at Kafka's heart. And Kafka has like a bit of comedic thing where he like pees out of his nipples and stuff, and it's really funny. But Hoshina, actually, this is quite a lot of development for Hoshina, shows that he's not like this carefree guy like we've seen before, especially during the exam arc. And he's not like the super serious boss guy either. He's somewhere in between, and he actually really cares for those under his command, which is really awe-inspiring to Kafka. Kafka gets all like, his chest fills out, and he's like, oh man, this guy is charismatic, and he cares about us, and this is really meaningful. And so he shows his appreciation by, saluting and taking it really seriously, and telling Hoshina, yeah, Mina told me that you are the person that believed in me, and I appreciate that. I am not going to let you down. Thank you very much. And they have a bit of a comedy moment again. Hoshina grabs Kafka by the thing and like gives him a, what is it? Like, it's like he rubs his head and like messes up his hair and like with his fist or something, and kind of messes him up. And he's like I would ever, like he kind of does this thing where he like puts down Kafka. He's like, yeah, I wouldn't ever trust in you, that because you can't even get to 1% of your power. Like that's useless. Then he lets go of Kafka, turns around to walk away, and then he's like, yeah, but I actually at least really have what's it called? Trust in at least 1% of you, the 1% of him that, he can activate of his power suit. And Kafka and him kind of have like a moment of like, yeah, solidarity. Like, yeah, I got you, man. And it was pretty good. And then the scene shifts once again. And we get a close-up of a kaiju's face. And this kaiju looks pretty dragonic. He has like big teeth in the front of his mouth. And he has like the start of a horn, but we can't see his eyes. And then the next bit is him riding on top of a dragon with a bunch of other kaiju dragons around him. And holy crap, that was so cool. I'm so excited for this next chapter. I can't wait. So yeah, it's a new humanoid kaiju. He looks kind of dragonic, and that's cool, and that's very interesting, and that leads into the theory section, which we are going to start doing right now. So the theories of that came up here is, are there different species of kaiju? Now, technically, there's different classifications according to humans. There's a Jochu, a Hanju, and then a Daikaiju. And they're all called kaiju, but depending on the size and their power level, there's different associations. We also know that there's kaiju with different attributes. We have the ones that have electricity, the ones that have fire, the ones that multiply, and each one of those attributes actually are what makes the weapons that the JDF have so diverse. So we know that there's different attributes and different classifications according to human standards. We also know that there's different types in terms of humanoid versus bestial versus somewhere in between, I guess. And the thing is, we also know that there's different types of kaiju in terms of how they look. So are there different species or tribes or groups of kaiju, maybe called races? I don't know. Or is there at least some sort of class or specialization? Because humanoid kaiju from before, the hammerhead kaiju or kaiju number 9, is more or less fungal. He looks like a fungus. He looks like a mushroom. And all of the kaiju that showed up when he was around were also of the same type. They all look like walking mushroom things, and they kind of look like the Flood from Halo. So he controls those because they're of the same species as him, or the same attribute or class or whatever as him, and they're all fungal, and he is like that as well. And his special ability, as far as we know, is turning into someone else or taking them over, which is kind of like a disease or a virus or something. I think there is a type of fungus actually that takes over ants and like is like a parasite and like zombifies ants in the Amazon, I think. I can't remember, but so that seems to be his special ability. This kaiju looks pretty dragonic, and he's riding a dragon, and he's surrounded by other dragon-like kaiju. So is he a different species than number 9? And if so, does he have control over dragonoid kaiju? And where does that distinction end, right? Because we saw a kaiju that looks just like a dragon at the beginning in in chapter 1. So it's very interesting. I'm really curious to see how that works. And I guess Kafka is going to be more a traditional, like, nuclear / electric style kaiju, kind of like Godzilla. So maybe at some point Kafka is going to develop a special control over certain types of kaiju. And I'm really interested to see how that all works. So yeah, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. What do you guys think about these kaiju and how these different attribute, class, race things kind of work? I would say that there's probably going to be different tribes or different groups of kaiju, and each different group of kaiju is going to be based on something different. So we're going to have the fungus kaiju, the dragon kaiju, maybe some sort of feline kaiju, or electronic kaiju, or metal kaiju and stuff like that. And they're going to be vying and fighting against each other, as well as fighting against Kafka and Japan in general. Or I guess we could actually have it where they are, like, every kaiju is different from the last one. And so it's kind of like how superheroes work in My Hero Academia. I'm not really sure. It's very interesting, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please let me know what you thought. Let me know what you thought about the kaiju races. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Oh, also, I have bought a Japanese version of Kaiju number 8, so I'm going to do a video where I talk about it and compare about it, and it's going to come out sometime next week. So please make sure to check it out. I will be putting it on the subreddit, so no worries there if you don't catch it. catch it on the subreddit, please check it out. It's going to be pretty cool. And yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys later.